Let's continue a little spicy topic. Was Hitler for real? But first, Roger King. What I mean by saying was he for real? Was he actually against the elites of our little world that run the matrix? He was saying all the right stuff, bruh. We all know about the Jews, but not many people know he was very against Freemasons, secret societies. He did a lot of stuff to those organizations, steal their esoteric works and such. He was against democracy, saying the two-party system is kinda illusions. Two parties you choose from, but they all work for same people. He was saying that decades before he got into power. He was against materialism and in such capitalism also, which kinda ruined everything, making everybody greedy little bakes, leads to exploiting other people and our beautiful earth. Although I'm not saying he didn't do that, but he was against materialism and capitalism. He was against all this degeneracy that was going on in the Weimar Republic. Like prostitution was super hip and hop back then, just like now. But we don't have like the prostitution in the streets anymore that much. We have that on the looking at the girls on the pixels on our screens kind of stuff going on. He was obviously very against that. He seemed to be against loitering around, chilling. He had this discipline mindset. Everybody wears same kind of uniforms. That kind of stuff going on. But anyway, he was saying a lot of the right stuff for people in the truther community. That's why many people still think he was the best. I think he really did believe all this. In his mind, he was right. He was very driven by his ideology, and he believed that shit 100%. He couldn't be faking that for decades. People don't understand, like he was campaigning around the Weimar decades before he got into power, and he was saying all this stuff. He was saying how he will choose violence against the Jews and stuff. All this stuff for years, decades. So there was that. So I don't think he was controlled by the elites, but the elites knew that they could use him for the next big war, because elites, they do love the wars. For whatever reason, they're making a lot of cash with them, funding both sides. Like one of the things about Hitler is was he really run by the elite bankers? One thing he was also against was the central banks, loans and shit. Loans with high interest rates, what the Jews be doing, all that. So he was saying a lot of good stuff. Like the problems, basically that are just manifolded to this day. That were the same problems back then. And he seemed to be the guy who actually did something about it in his own way. In his choosing the violence way. And with his way, it was his way. He was not willing to compromise. For example, he was very into vegetarianism. He was doing some things against hunting in the Germany when he got into power. I think he said to Goebbels in the 42 when the war was going on, he said, when we win the war, I want to make German people eat vegetarian diets and all that. Clearly he was very wrong about that. Those things make you think maybe he was control opposition. But I think, like with all of his ideologies, he took the vegetarianism, animal ethics ideology to the extremes. He didn't understand the nutritional aspect that the elites are using now. So we don't have the same kind of revolutions anymore. Because we have same kind of conditions now, even worse. A lot of guys being bored here, not believing anything, not believing in this matrix. A lot of incels. Guys getting deprived from their natural urges. But the thing is, guys these days don't have testosterone anymore. That's the difference. There's too much conformity. Just sitting in your home, eating bullshit and stuff. But I think the elites back then, they knew they could use Hitler to create the World War, profit from it massively, cause a lot of death and chaos, do their stuff, like they did some horrible stuff to the Germans too, and the Germans obviously killed a lot of people too. They liked that stuff. And they knew that they could win the war. Because they had both sides covered. They had the Bolsheviks, that were Jews, that the elites probably controlled. And not just probably. And the same people control the Allies. The Britain, United States. Like, it doesn't make any sense why United States was teaming up with Soviets. And like General Patton said, we choose the wrong side, we fought the wrong enemy or whatever. Like, it didn't really make sense, but when you know actually about the elite, it makes a lot of sense. So I think they used Hitler because he couldn't be so magnetic to the German population if he was just doing some theater act. He couldn't be so good for all those years. He had to believe it to be authentic. And that's why he believed it, like, probably more than anybody has ever believed in anything. He believed he was gonna do that, change the world, and make his country the best country ever. He believed that so much. I think he was for real, for real. He did make a lot of mistakes though. By choosing the violence. A lot of his people got killed. All the Germans that followed him, most of them got killed. So there was a big consequence. I cannot pronounce them. Consequences. That's a little better. For his people and his movement. There's a hairy magic and but from the get-go, he was on the bad that you couldn't change the world by being pacific. He goes under that stuff in his book. My struggle. But also the elites knew that probably they could win the war, and after that they could make the Hitler what it is today. Like, you cannot say anything about anything except very evil, bad things with dramatic music and NPC editing about Hitler. You cannot talk about without being very heavily censored about him in any, like even jokingly good ways. I remember when PewDiePie did that Hitler joke back in the day. That they went straight onto him. Because they obviously don't want people to know what Hitler was actually talking about. Like the things I said at the beginning on this video. They don't want people to know, today's people, about these topics. Like, who knows that Hitler was so against Freemasons, for example? Not many people. Or he took the central banks that were like these bankers that are still running shit. He took those out of Germany. Like Hitler was saying a lot of good shit. A lot of very based stuff. But he took a little bit more than he could chew. Just a little bit. And the real elites, they knew this and they used him. They used him that there wouldn't be that kind of revolution ever again because he got so close. At least it seems like it. But anyway, I don't think that's the way. The way really to break the matrix is without violence, but you have to change the world's global psyche, how they view things, and go back to more natural ways of living. And Hitler wasn't doing that. He was far from the nature with all this vegetarianism bullshit and everybody wearing these slave uniforms and that stuff. I don't think that's very cool. So that's that. Based or not, Weimar problems require Weimar resolutions. Or now, maybe not. Let me know. I'm out of raw chicken, so see you on the next one.